If you're watching this, hopefully you have seen the depression short film that we made, and you want to maybe learn more about, depression in general. And, I think everybody goes through it at some point in their life. Maybe some of us don't call it depression. Maybe we call it chemical problems where you're in like a rut that you can't seem to get out of with things that normally would make you happy, and or you don't care to get out of it. I think either of those would be like light levels and then of depression, what someone would consider depression, where you don't want to feel better. Mm-hmm. That's depression, right? And then if you go deeper into clinical depression, it can get, obviously far worse than that. So this video that we made was kind of like a Ben's representation of what depression looks like, feels like, and we try to really convey that. Ben was super in character. It was creepy for me to be filming it.
It was palpable.
It was very much in this room. It was creepy. And then
open the windows to let
air it out,
breathe again.
Air it out.
Yeah.
The room was depressed. And my style of when I go through those is super different. And I suppose we wanted to just open up and share about those two things. So, obviously, this is Ben's style. What's your depression like? What?
I guess a feeling of worthlessness, not really wanting to do much in the specific time that it's actually occurring. It's really hard for.
What kind of brings you into it?
Brings me into it. It's kind of hard to foresee. It's hard to plan on being depressed. It kind of just happens, I think, in a lot of ways. I mean, there are a lot of unconscious things that are going on that will cause people to become more depressed over time or for specific periods, and I think that's a lot of just airing some things out and working through them. And
like what? Can you give me an example?
My specific things, my tactics to kind of combat loneliness. So I love listening to podcasts, reading books, basically just feeling like I'm moving forward with my life or learning something or expanding in some way, creating something. Depression, anxiety, all that stuff, I think it's a part of everybody. It's certainly a part of me, but through my tactics that I use to kind of keep all these things at bay, I've learned over time that these are just some of the ingredients to who I am, and I know to expect it sometimes, and I know also not to fear it. Skip, what is your depression like?
My breed, my species. Mine is super different than this video, and Ben was joking earlier, we should make a different video of my breed, because I think it would be really funny, and we shot this film in a way that I thought really captured that Ben's classic Absolutely. Depression style. And we were inspired by a different YouTuber who had made something similar, and my breed of depression is radically different. I don't even want to say it's unsuspecting. I kind of know it's coming. It's very much I'm looking up a mountain at an avalanche coming down, and I just know it's going to hit, and I can kind of get out of the brunt of it. I think when I was younger, it would hit me full force, and now I know oh, it's coming, run to the side, and it doesn't last as long or get as dark as it used to. But it's existential. My style is very, I don't want to do anything, but I do want to get better, but everything I do to get better doesn't help, because when I'm in that depressive state, it's because I don't think anything matters in the world. And it's this, universal approach to why does the world exist? What does human life mean? And the answer is either unknowable right now, or it's just a belief and there's no facts behind it. And, I think I've come to see the world as very much like the Matrix, ones and zeros, and, you have complete control over everything that you want in this world. If you, work for it, get the right people, resourcefulness, right? And because of that, it puts me in this depressive state because I know everything's possible. And because everything is possible, why do anything? Mm-hmm. And it's just a super weird cycle that I go through. I call it my man period or my myriad. Mm-hmm. Yeah, do you call it that?
I can certainly sympathize with this idea. I think more so with my depression in particular, it's kind of opposite. I think so much is at stake, and I'm not making enough ground towards, I guess, whatever I'm wanting to accomplish. So everything seems pretty insurmountable. I think that's where a lot of my darkness kind of comes from. I mean,
That's super interesting. So it's literally opposites.
hearing what you're saying, like nothing matters, it almost sounds like, I mean, it almost sounds like peaceful in a really weird way.
It's super peaceful.
It almost sounds that way.
It's like this weird, that's the reason why it traps you, is because it traps you in this peacefulness where I think if I was living in Tibet on a mountain, it would be a perfect lifestyle.
Right.
But because I live in America and because I choose to have the connections and the relations that I do in like the first world, it's like a weird, like, I know that none of this matters, but I know that other people, it matters to them. So I choose to like play that game. And like some part of me still likes material things. But so when I get depressed, like the thing that I do is I try to contribute to humanity in like major ways. Like if I go, like yesterday, if I go 8 hours and I haven't done something major to help humanity or like a friend or something, I'm in peace. But being at peace with an acceptance of everything that you have and everything that you want, and just like having the ability to completely forego ambition, is kind of a depressive hole in modern society. Like if I'm living in the culture that we're living in, it is socially unacceptable to want nothing and to work for nothing. And it just feels weird. I think because I was, I hope someone else can relate to what I'm trying to say right now, but I think it's like overachiever neuroses and depression is probably what it is, where you have this balance between like I meditate all the time to calm myself, and that's like easily the most impactful health change I've ever done. And I've been a health coach for like a decade, at a high level, and I think meditation's like the most valuable thing you could do if you can, get good at it and try different styles and all that. But when I get depressed, I just bury myself. We have so many books behind us right now, because if I don't have like 10 books on hand to just bury myself in when I get into that phase, I'll like lose it. I'll just overconsume like a madman.
I think it's really important to have backup plans as well. There are times when books are great and wanting to continue to learn, but sometimes, your mind just won't allow it to happen. So that's where, really great podcasts will come into play. So you don't feel as lonely. You'll feel the presence of a few.
It's almost like friends, right?
Yeah, it's almost like friends. So.
Especially if you listen to them regularly.
Yeah, and you can just absorb everything from those, and at the same time still be achieving what you need to achieve by way of learning, just in a different way to hopefully claw your way out of the cave or the hole that you've sort of dug yourself into. Yeah.
Would you also agree like movement really important? So movement, like because of the podcasts, you can like walk or exercise while listening to podcasts. Yep. And that's so you get like that sense of connection with someone, and especially podcasts like tend to be someone who would be considered successful. And you're able to get the movement in, so you get like that BDNF, the hormonal balance of happiness and stuff. So
walking is crucial, totally underrated.
Yeah,
in many ways. Yeah,
hour, 2 hours, doesn't have to be fast.
And the sun is nice. In the sun,
sweating.
Get your vitamins and stuff like that. Hydration. A lot of it might be placebo effect, but milk that for everything you can.
Placebo's so powerful.
So good.
If anyone's like, oh, that could help, I'm like, cool, done.
Yeah.
Let's do it.
Placebo is probably your way to the light.
Meditation
so a
is
lot
placebo,
of it,
right?
Yeah. I'd reckon so. Yeah. Meditation's huge. Physical exertion is huge. Really just feeling like you are creating or contributing to something. And I think the feeling of worthlessness is the biggest enemy towards your mind that will ultimately kind of lead you into an unachievable maze of depression in this downward spiral, certainly.
So you just connected it there. Our two types of depression kind of like start in different places, but they both come down to worthlessness. And yours comes from being overwhelmed, and mine comes from being underwhelmed.
Right.
but they meet
And
right
I really
here of
wish
like,
I was right there, right?
yeah.
So it's
Interesting.
no, it's definitely interesting to see the different forms of depression, how different people feel. My specific form is probably maybe more typical than Skip's, but you know, I reckon we'll film his and we'll see what y'all have to say.
That'd be so funny. We got to do it.
All right.
Awesome. Thank you, sir.